Have you ever cracked open a tin of coconut milk for a weeknight curry, watched a dull, watery sludge bleed into your pan, and wondered why your dinner looks more like wet plaster than a rich Thai feast? You're not crazy, and you're certainly not bad at cooking. You're just getting ripped off by a supermarket aisle that relies entirely on your blind trust. Tonight, we are tearing the glossy labels off a product sitting in almost every pantry in Australia. 8 leading coconut milk brands sitting on Coles, Woolworths, ALDI and IGA shelves right now are failing basic value and quality benchmarks. I will show you how corporate giants are charging you full price for tins stuffed with tap water and industrial thickeners. You will find out which popular home brands are cutting their recipes in half, how hidden chemical linings banned in Europe are still floating around local pantries, and why the brand sitting at the very top of our avoid list carries an ethical supply chain scandal so grotesque that major global retailers purged it from their stores while Australian grocers kept quietly scanning it at the checkout. Watch to the end because after this, you will know more than 90% of shoppers and you will get the exact 2 honest brands actually worth putting in your trolley. Before we name names, we need to understand the mechanics of the scam. Real, traditional coconut milk is stupidly simple. You grate mature coconut flesh, press it with a small amount of warm water and strain it. What comes out is a natural emulsion of coconut oil, protein, and water. It is rich, naturally sweet, and carries a clean, tropical aroma. When you cook with real coconut milk, the heat releases those natural fats, creating a glossy, velvety sauce that coats every grain of rice and holds spices in balance. That is what you are supposed to be buying when you shell out your hard-earned dollars in the Asian foods aisle. Instead, major food processors figured out a sneaky way to double their profit margins on a shelf-stable staple. Real coconut flesh costs money to harvest, transport, and process. Tap water costs virtually nothing, so manufacturers started watering down the coconut extract to 50% or even 45% and filling the rest of the tin with water. But since nobody wants to buy a tin of cloudy grey water, they needed a cover-up. Enter industrial stabilizers and thickeners like guar gum, carboxymethylcellulose, and xanthan gum. These additives absorb water and swell up, faking a thick, creamy texture inside a cold tin. It is the food industry equivalent of watering down a glass of milk and stirring in wallpaper paste to make it feel rich on your tongue. It gets worse once you turn on the stove. Natural coconut fat melts and integrates smoothly into a hot dish. Synthetic gum formulations do the exact opposite. The moment heat hits these watered-down, additive-heavy formulas, the chemical matrix breaks down. The fake body vanishes, the sauce thins out instantly, and the liquid splits into a greasy oil slick sitting on top of a watery soup. To stop this separation, chemical emulsifiers like polysorbate 60 are tossed into the mix. You end up paying premium grocery money for a chemistry experiment designed solely to hide the fact that half the coconut is missing. Then there is the hidden issue of what the liquid is actually sitting in for months on end. Coconut milk is high in fat, and fatty foods are particularly prone to absorbing chemical compounds from their packaging. Many standard tin cans use epoxy resin linings containing bisphenol A, a known endocrine disruptor. While the European Union moved to ban bisphenol A from food contact materials entirely by late 2024, Food Standards Australia-New Zealand continues to rely on outdated safety thresholds, leaving Australian shoppers completely unprotected from long-term, low-level exposure. You are paying for a product where both the contents and the container represent a quiet downgrade in standards. This silent degradation of quality isn't happening by accident. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission spent all of 2024 and early 2025 investigating supermarket gouging, revealing that Coles and Woolworths posted some of the highest profit margins among global grocers during a brutal cost of living crisis. Coconut milk is the perfect quiet cash cow for these retailers because it isn't a fresh item with volatile market pricing. The tin stays 400 millilitres, the price on the shelf ticks upward, and the actual amount of coconut inside quietly shrinks behind identical marketing claims. Now that you know how the game is rigged, let's break down the 8 worst offenders sitting on Australian shelves, ranked from the mild slights to the outright corporate disgraces. Let's start the breakdown with the entry-level budget trap sitting on the bottom shelf at Woolworths. Woolworths Essentials Coconut Milk. Priced at just $1.70 for a 400 milliliter tin, this is the default option for budget-conscious families. Woolworths built its reputation as the fresh food people, giving shoppers a warm sense of trust. But flip this cheap tin around and the illusion shatters. Independent testing and choice-style product comparisons reveal this product contains a miserable 50% coconut extract. The remaining half is water diluted with additive 412, better known as guar gum. When MasterChef finalist Brendan Pang tested this exact tin in a broadsheet taste trial, he noted a gummy, unpleasantly slimy texture that delivered almost zero coconut flavor once cooked. You think you're saving money, but at $1.70 for a can that is literally half water and industrial thickener, you are paying full price for glorified tap water. The thickeners trick your eye when cold, but the second it hits a hot pan, the fake emulsion collapses, leaving your stir-fry thin and separated dot. Moving one aisle over, Coles coconut milk plays the exact same game at the exact same price. Sitting at $1.70, Coles matches Woolworths step for step with a formula that is 50% coconut extract, stuffed with water and guar gum. In taste panels, reviewers described it as bland, thin, and faintly sticky on the palate, lacking the natural velvet sheen expected from genuine coconut fat. Why does this matter right now? The ACCC's formal inquiry into Australian supermarkets revealed Coles and Woolworths generated record-high profit margins, while everyday shoppers suffered a brutal cost-of-living crisis. Shelf-stable staples like coconut milk are corporate cash cows because retailers can quietly reduce the percentage of real ingredient, substitute cheap water and thickeners, and pocket the margin difference without changing the price tag. When two supposed supermarket rivals land on the exact same watered-down 50% formula at $1.70, it isn't healthy market competition. It is a race to the absolute bottom of quality. If you're itching to check your own pantry right now, hit that subscribe button, because the corporate cutting only gets rougher from here. At number 6, we have Pandaroo coconut milk, widely sold across Woolworths and independent IGA stores for around $2.25. Pandaroo uses a cheerful, friendly panda on the label to project a wholesome, authentic image. But behind that bright packaging sits the single worst coconut percentage among mainstream Australian brands, a pathetic 45% coconut extract. To make this watery dilution pass for milk, Pandaroo relies on a heavy-duty chemical package, emulsifier 435, polysorbate 60, and stabilizer 466, carboxymethyl cellulose. Taste testers reported a synthetic artificial aroma reminiscent of cheap coconut essence rather than real fruit flesh. When tossed into a hot pan, the thin formula completely fails to coat a spoon, delivering a sharp, unnatural flavor spike that clashes with spices. At $2.25, Pandaroo isn't even the cheapest option on the shelf, yet it gives you the absolute least amount of real coconut for your dollar. You are paying a markup for cheap additives wrapped in cute marketing. Number 5 brings us to ALDI Asia Specialities coconut milk, sitting at an ultra-low $1.69. On paper, ALDI looks like a triumphant budget hero. Its ingredient panel boasts an impressive 75% coconut kernel extract, beating out the big two supermarkets by a mile. But ingredient percentages on paper don't always translate to performance in the pan. Despite the high initial percentage, ALDI fills the rest of the tin with water and two separate stabilizers, guar gum 412 and sodium carboxymethyl cellulose 466. In kitchen testing, the liquid cooked down surprisingly thin and light, failing to provide the rich, clingy body required for authentic Thai curry. It proves an important lesson. Heavy industrial processing and added gums can ruin the mouthfeel, even when the base ingredient count is decent. ALDI deserves credit for offering more real coconut than Coles or Woolworths for less money, but the presence of twin chemical stabilizers keeps it firmly on our avoid list. Stepping into the mid-tier options, TCC coconut milk sits on Woolworths and IGA shelves for roughly $3.20. Featuring traditional Thai typography, TCC trades heavily on an image of regional authenticity. But the ingredient label tells a very average story. 53% coconut extract, with water making up the remaining 47%. When sampled raw straight from the tin, taste panels noted a sharp, metallic aftertaste that only dissipates after heavy cooking with aggressive spices. That harsh metallic note highlights a widespread packaging concern across Australian grocery stores. Fatty, acidic liquids like coconut milk react over time with standard epoxy tin linings, leaking trace metallic flavors into the product. While the European Union took decisive action by banning bisphenol A, BPA, from food contact materials entirely, Food Standards Australia New Zealand continues to permit these linings under old exposure guidelines. Paying $3.20 for a 53% diluted coconut milk sitting in questionable packaging is a bad deal wrapped in authentic-looking heritage. At number 3, Trident coconut milk is a familiar staple found in IGA and local independent grocers for about $2.80. Trident is an iconic brand in Australia, trusted for decades for sweet chili sauces and Asian pantry goods. That halo of brand trust does heavy lifting here, masking a middling 60% coconut extract content, padded out with water and stabilizer, 466. In culinary testing, while the raw flavor seemed mild, cooking it down caused the coconut flavor to turn strangely heavy and dominant, overpowering delicate curry spices rather than blending smoothly. Furthermore, Trident uses standard uncertified metal tins with no BPA-free designation, leaving consumers exposed to the same regulatory loophole FSA-NZ refuses to close. Trident relies on your long-standing brand loyalty to charge $2.80 for a tin that is 40% water and additive. Number 2 on the avoid list is Cara coconut milk, an Indonesian import found at Woolworths, Coles, and IGA for a premium $4.50 per 400 milliliter tin. Cara is famous among home cooks for delivering an outstanding, rich flavor profile and a thick, luxurious texture that routinely wins blind taste tests. So why is it on the avoid list? Turn the tin around and read the fine print. Cara stacks 3 separate chemical additives into a single can. Stabilizer, 466, thickener, 415, xanthan gum, and emulsifier, 435, polysorbate 60. At $4.50, Cara is one of the most expensive tins on the shelf, meaning there is zero financial excuse for chemical padding. Instead of relying purely on natural coconut fats, Cara uses an engineered additive cocktail to guarantee thick batch consistency every time. If you want real food rather than a chemically stabilized food product, paying top dollar for 3 added gums is a compromise you shouldn't have to make. Finally, sitting at number 1 is the most scandalous brand on Australian shelves, Aroy D coconut milk, along with Chowco, widely distributed through Asian grocers, IGA stores, and online retailers across Australia. While Coles and Woolworths phased out house brand ties to these specific suppliers following international pressure, these imported tins remain easily accessible to Australian consumers. In detailed investigations by PETA, documented supply chains linked these major Thai coconut producers to severe systemic animal abuse, forced monkey labor. Infant pigtail macaques are illegally poached from the wild, chained by the neck, and subjected to harsh physical coercion, forced to climb tall palms to pick up to 1,000 coconuts a day. Intimidated by extreme confinement, footage captured these animals displaying severe psychological distress. When the findings blew up globally, major US and UK retail giants like Target, Costco, and Boots permanently removed these brands from tens of thousands of stores. Yet in Australia, response was muted, and these exact brands quietly shifted into independent grocers and online storefronts, where unsuspecting shoppers continue to buy them today. Thailand's commerce officials attempted to brush the scandal off as a traditional cultural practice, but international welfare groups confirmed the horrific reality. Buying these tins means directly funding an unethical supply chain that the rest of the developed world rightfully threw in the trash. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. After wading through a sea of watered-down tins, chemical thickeners, hidden BPA linings, and horrific supply chain scandals, it is time for some genuine relief. There is good news here. You do not have to give up on making rich, authentic curries or creamy soups at home, and you certainly do not need to settle for glorified tap water thickened with industrial wallpaper paste. A couple of brands sitting on Australian supermarket shelves are actually doing things properly. They respect your health, respect your hard-earned money, and refuse to play the sneaky cost-cutting games that have ruined this whole aisle. The gap between the brands on our avoid list and the 2 options we are about to break down is night and day the moment you crack open the tin. Our second best pick is Ceres Organics Certified Organic Coconut Cream. Founded in New Zealand and widely stocked across Australia in Woolworths organic aisles, Harris Farm markets, local health food shops, and independent IGAs, this tin retails for around $3.70 for a 400 milliliter can. Now let's look at why this product easily earned its spot on our recommended list. Flip the can around and read the ingredient panel. It reads, organic coconut 55%, water. That is literally it. There is no guar gum under additive code 412, no xanthan gum under code 415, no carboxymethyl cellulose under code 466, and no polysorbate emulsifiers. Nothing with a 3-digit chemical code is hiding in the fine print. Furthermore, Ceres Organics explicitly uses guaranteed BPA-free tin linings, completely eliminating the regulatory risk factor surrounding industrial chemical leaching that Food Standards Australia and New Zealand continues to ignore. Because there are 0 artificial emulsifiers or thickeners holding this mixture together artificially, the product separates naturally inside the tin. The rich, natural coconut fat sits at the top, while the light coconut water rests underneath. To anyone accustomed to chemically stabilized food, that natural separation might look like a flaw, but it is actually the ultimate sign of purity. It is proof that no industrial gums were added to fake a consistency. Real coconut fat doesn't hold on its own without help. Warm it gently in your pan, give it a quick stir, and it comes back together into a smooth, velvety sauce long before your spices hit the heat. From a sensory standpoint, opening a tin of Ceres Organics gives off a clean, sweet, natural coconut aroma with 0 metallic or artificial undertones. In a cooked dish, the flavor is mild, clean, and balanced, letting garlic, ginger, and lemongrass shine without smothering them. At $3.70, it is pricier than cheap home brand tins, but you are paying for absolute purity, full organic certification, free from synthetic pesticides, and completely non-toxic packaging. It is the ideal choice for health-conscious shoppers who want a clean, organic pantry staple, free from processed additives. Taking the #1 spot as our ultimate recommendation is I Am Coconut Milk. This Malaysian-owned staple is widely available at Woolworths, Coles, ALDI, IGA, and Harris Farm markets. For roughly $4.20 to $5.00 for a 400 milliliter can. I Am dominated the independent broadsheet and choice-style kitchen testing trials, blowing every competitor off the table. Let's look at the numbers behind this total triumph. The ingredient panel lists coconut kernel extract at a massive 89%, with water making up the remaining 11%. No gums, no emulsifiers, no stabilizers, no added water fillers, and 0 additive codes whatsoever. It delivers the highest concentration of pure coconut content tested on Australian shelves. Because I Am is sourced and processed in Malaysia rather than Thailand, it sits completely clear of the forced monkey labour investigations that tainted Thai coconut supply chains like Aroy D and Chowco. While no global supply chain should ever be granted a blind pass, I Am's transparent sourcing provides genuine ethical peace of mind. Pouring I Am out of the tin reveals a smooth, thick, luxurious liquid with a glossy off-white sheen. It coats the back of a spoon perfectly without any artificial gel-like wobble or greasy separation. When added to a simmering curry base, it melts into a rich, restaurant-quality sauce that holds spices in perfect balance and never splits under high heat. Yes, at around $4.50, I Am is more expensive per tin than a $1.70 home brand option. But when you run the actual arithmetic, I Am delivers almost double the real coconut flesh of Woolworths Essentials or Coles home brands. You are getting vastly superior culinary performance, 0 chemical additives, non-toxic packaging, and an ethically sound supply chain for a negligible price difference per meal. It is the absolute gold standard for Australian home cooks. Now that you know how the coconut milk aisle operates, here are 6 simple rules to protect your wallet next time you shop at Woolworths, Coles, ALDI, or IGA. First, always flip the tin around immediately and check the coconut extract percentage. If it reads below 70%, put it back because you are paying for diluted water. Second, prioritize clean ingredient panels containing only coconut and water, avoiding brands that rely on processed fillers. Third, treat additive codes 412, 415, 466, and 435 as clear red flags signaling a watered-down product engineered with industrial thickeners. Fourth, look for explicit BPA-free certification on the can to protect your meal from packaging chemical leaching. Fifth, never assume authentic Asian typography or a higher price tag guarantees purity, as marketing often hides mediocre 50% formulas. Sixth, treat natural fat separation inside the tin as a major green flag, showing an honest product free from chemical emulsifiers. At its core, this investigation reveals how modern Australian supermarkets profit off our busy lives, relying on uniform packaging to hide declining ingredient quality. Corporate giants know most shoppers grab whichever tin is nearest without reading the fine print, letting them cut raw ingredient costs while keeping shelf prices high. Beating corporate manipulation doesn't require a chemistry degree. It simply takes 5 seconds of checking the back of the tin to demand real ingredients over factory engineering. Once you make that simple mindset shift, You stop being a victim of quiet supermarket gouging and regain control over what lands in your cooking pot. Thank you for spending your time with us tonight to uncover the truth behind everyday grocery shelves. If this video opened your eyes, please hit the like button and share it with friends and family, because informed consumers make it impossible for corporations to hide diluted products. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of these brands is sitting in your pantry tonight, and will you be switching to IAM or Ceres Organics on your next shop? Keep an eye out for our next exposé into olive oil fraud across Australian stores. Check those labels, and I will see you in the next video.